How's it going, guys? And I'm here to talk about the MJF CM Punk promo from this past Wednesday that happened on Dynamite. That was the November 24th episode. And, everyone's talking about this segment, and a few people asked if I could talk about it, so here I am. Now, I've realized that if I probably reviewed AEW shows and did more rants on different things on these shows, judging by the views that the AEW videos get, they usually do better than the WWE ones, but still a lot of people want to hear me talk about SmackDown, the pay-per-views, so that will never happen. And plus, that would be way too torturous. It's torturous enough having to watch the WWE shows. I could only imagine if I had to switch off and do AEW shows, and I don't have to do anything, so I'm not going to do that. But anyway, let's talk about this segment here. Now, can we now admit that if you're going to say that you enjoyed this promo and you enjoyed what MJF had to say, you have to admit that what I said, what came out of MJF's mouth, was the same thing that I've been saying since CM Punk has come into AEW. Same thing when I reviewed the Darby Allin match. Same thing when I reviewed basically everything else that he has done, from his debut being overblown when people were saying that was one of the best moments in wrestling history. I said it was okay. I said he was pandering to the crowd, and people said that I'm miserable, I don't know what I'm talking about, blah blah blah. So here we are, few months later, and all I could say is the champ is here. And, why do I say that I'm the YWC champ? I don't call myself that anymore, but, why did I go about saying it time and time again? Because I've noticed a lot of times stuff I say on here comes true, that I'm right, not to toot my own horn, but it is an observation. Why? Because I've been watching this for a very long time, and I kind of know when something kind of sucks and it's not going over well. If it was something that I didn't really like and I just, and it was over, then I would admit it. I've said that time and time again. I'll be like, I don't like, it's kind of like New Day. They're over. They sell a lot of merchandise, but I don't like it, so I wish it would go away. But, this right here, I will say, did I enjoy this promo? Yes, I did. Did it have problems here and there? It sort of did. This is the thing here. CM Punk's retorts, they kind of came off a bit more juvenile and a little stupid. MJF, I will tell you something here. MJF, when he comes to WWE, he could be a big hit. Now, we've said this about a number of different people, and not everyone has hit it off. Think about it. Guys like Drew McIntyre, they shouldn't be having a problem in WWE, but they are. So, we can say that these people will not have problems when they make their way to WWE. But MJF's style right here, as far as I'm concerned, this is too good for the indie marks. I did not see a lot in this guy because, quite frankly, none of the promos that he was cutting were really like that astounding. A lot of people giving credit really where credit wasn't due. He wasn't really doing such a bang up job, but the guy is committed to his bit. And not only that, but this promo right here showed that, if he's not constrained by anything, by stupid storylines with Cody Rhodes and stuff like that, that we could actually get some pretty decent stuff. And this really seemed like none of this was scripted. I really doubt that it was, because everything was very natural. And MJF came off looking like a real star here, came off looking like a heel. He spoke a lot of truth. You could say so much truth to the detriment of CM Punk, and maybe even MJF looking like a heel, because a lot of the stuff he was saying was very true, and CM Punk really didn't have a lot to back it up, because his run has been pretty terrible. But I did like that they gave MJF the platform here to express it. Now, I don't know if they kind of discussed this beforehand. I don't think a lot of stuff is discussed beforehand in AEW. That's probably why it's such a messy promotion. But, we will analyze this based on what we got. And, and like I said, what we got was pretty good. It was entertaining. From what I saw, it's up on the AEW YouTube channel. So, like, CM Punk was cutting a promo, and I tried finding that part. Couldn't really find it here. So it kind of comes on where MJF interrupts CM Punk. He was probably going to do a pandering promo. Not even sure if he got a single word out before MJF came out. But MJF talks about, he has waited to get in the ring with CM Punk for a while, to do a promo with him. Last week something happened, and he says, like, Punk has not talked about him or anything, and he's been off Punk's radar. And this is the thing, it's like, these are exactly the people that should have been on Punk's radar to begin with. The people with the charisma, not the Darby Allins. We'll see later on that Punk is going to talk about Darby Allin. It's going to sound really stupid and really just kind of prove MJF's point. Even though it's a character, it's true what he was saying. So MJF talks about the pipe bomb. He says that was the defining moment for Punk. And did I not say that? Did I not already say that they've been living off that pipe bomb since it happened in 2011? And every CM Punk promo from that point on has been a quest to find the second pipe bomb. And many people said that it was his debut because he referenced WWE a few times. They said, oh, it's like pipe bomb number 2. It quite frankly, it became pathetic. And I said that was nowhere near that first pipe bomb. And the pipe bomb was a platform that WWE gave him, so it wasn't really that, like, effective. It wasn't really that renegade. It wasn't really that revolutionary like a lot of people said that it was back in the day. Was it surprising when it first happened? Yes, but WWE intended it to be that way. And that's why you're still talking about it 10 years later. So it was kind of interesting that it's sort of like the 10th anniversary year. It sort of is a little bit more than that since Punk cut that promo back in 2011. So he addresses that. He says about the UFC that his career has kind of flopped in AEW much like it has in the UFC. The opponents he has picked, it's been too hard for Punk to beat him. Like, if you watch that Darby Allin match, like, with Punk, it really is a bit sad because we clearly see that, like, Punk is bigger than him. Darby Allin is just like a wimpy looking guy with face paint. They're trying so hard to make this guy like the next Jeff Hardy, but he doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't have the aura. It doesn't matter if he has a skateboard. I mean, John Laurinaitis had a skateboard too. Did that make him over? No, it didn't. You could call that a poor comparison if you want, but they have tried everything in their power, from getting Darby Allin, to be Sting's little buddy, little buddy, and it's just not working. And you look at the ratings, and it's not working. It doesn't matter if you think it looks good, it's not working because the ratings are not there. So all this stuff has failed. He's talked, he said these opponents, it shouldn't be that hard for you to beat these people. I mean, we're talking about a guy that he'll go on later on to talk about Cena and Triple H in not so many words, using their nicknames. And, he's been in the ring with The Undertaker. At WrestleMania, they made like CM Punk could beat The Undertaker. So the fact that he's in the ring with Darby Allin struggling, that's 100% true. He's looked pathetic being in AEW. And I don't know if this is the way how they're booking him and they're telling him to go out there and give Darby Allin the offense. He's also wrestling no-namers. Like, he was wrestling somebody and they're promoting a match and no one's even heard of the guy. Like, it's sad. It's sad. And people are all for it. Oh, he's giving the young guys a chance. Young guys that don't even have a chance to begin with. Let's be quite frank here. Also, the most hilarious part of this, as you can tell, I actually really did enjoy this. He says that CM Punk has been super robotic since being there. Holy shit, I don't even know. And this is what made this a strong promo. Was he supposed to be saying this? I don't know. Because quite frankly, I mean, the heel, to me, he seemed like a hero here because he's pointing out flaws that need to be addressed. And it's like, okay, this is good because you're exposing a truth, but to the detriment of your product. Man, I'm really bad at pronouncing that word, so maybe I better stop using it. It's a good word, but the thing is that the product looks like shit. Like when you really lay out what MJF is saying here, because CM Punk is your big acquisition. This is your big multi-million-dollar contract guy. Punk was supposed to come in and change it all, and he did boost the ratings, but they fell quite significantly after that. No one tuned in for his Dynamite debut, and also the following Rampage didn't do anything to help matters. Like one of the most historic drops ever. Not even WWE had any big drops like that from week to week from I can remember in recent memory. But yeah, he said CM Punk super robotic. It's great to be in this town, guys. And he says it really reminds him of pushing hustle, loyalty, respect, and like you want to talk about like pandering. There's a John Cena reference, and I mean that's the guy that in WWE, everyone said like, oh, Punk was the counter to John Cena, who was like, the company guy, the yes man, and CM Punk was going to be the revolutionary guy that wasn't going to listen to McMahon. He's the outsider, and he even uses that word outsider. And yeah, he's been super robotic. Oh, it's great. I came back for you guys. Like, and he addressed all that. And man, the words of MJF really had some bite to them. And it really was like a work shoot promo that really was effective. So CM Punk comes back and, he calls him, just a poor version of the Miz, and that's kind of funny because he was a tough enough guy as well, was MJF, and he makes fun of his name, MJF. He said he didn't even know it stood for Maxwell. He says it was something about him being a jealous fan. Yeah, most jealous fan. He called him like, okay, that's not really that great. Punk was, the delivery was good. Punk talks about how it made the New York Times, the whole, song and dance thing with Jericho and the Inner Circle, and he said, but now you're going to make the obituaries of the New York Times. Like that line right there, like that's kind of stupid. Like I said, I've talked about this on a number of occasions. Anything where you reference, death or anything like that, you're going to kill the other guy. The Samoa Joe thing, Goldberg did it more recently on Raw with Bobby Lashley. It does not sound good. It's not the proper place to do it because, I mean, let's face it, this is wrestling. No one really dies or is going to get killed. So, I don't get why we're still doing that to this day. But then you got Punk talking about Darby Allin, and you can even just kind of hear in my voice in a way like this stuff just was not over with me. You could just clearly see that this stuff was just not as good as MJF's material. He was kind of grasping at straws, Punk. That's what it really looked like here. He talks about how, Darby Allin, is one of the guys, he's the heart and soul of AEW. Does anyone truly believe, and I know that there are people that believe that Darby Allin is truly the heart and soul of AEW? I mean, is anyone really looking at that small, skinny nobody and saying, like, this is the future of wrestling? Because if it is, that's a really grim future. I mean, honestly, if we're talking about smaller guys that have bright futures, I mean, does WWE not already have Ricochet, who's in, like, way better shape? He actually has a physique, and he could do probably more from what I've seen with Darby Allin. He could fall backwards off the top rope. Whoa! Meanwhile, you've got Ricochet, who's doing, like, fucking 50 flips in midair. Like, how many revolutions can he do? And he says, you're mad because you've been replaced by Britt Baker because he said he was one of the 4 pillars. I don't even know who they consider to be the best. They have a ranking system that they don't even follow in AEW. And, they kind of get closer and closer as they're cutting the promo. And, Punk says, I'm going to punch you, in your needle dick. And they start taking off their clothes and, and like getting ready to fight. And then MJF just kind of rolls out on them. So, this was interesting. I also, I was starting to mention before about how he says the King of Kings in there. He said about Cena. He also threw another part in there with "You Can't See Me," so there was also that too. Punk really, he did a decent job with the delivery, but as far as who won, even though this is a work shoot promo, MJF kind of really blew him away, and it was a bad look for Punk. So, in a way, this did not do Punk any favors. I mean, it is a nice way of resetting Punk as long as they stay the course and they don't go the way that they were, where Punk is doing these guys a favor by wrestling them and beating them, so it doesn't make any sense really. It's not like he's really putting anyone over. He's just having these really long, boring matches with nobodies and guys that like Darby Allin that no one gives a fuck about, but they pretend like people do. I'm looking at the ratings. Yeah, people really care about Darby Allin. Oh man, he's one of the 4 pillars. Jeez. I mean, it's just so much bullshit, but because the demos are good, the demos, baby. Yeah, alright. So, as far as I'm concerned, AEW is having trouble going up against the golden egg. Yeah, that's how hard WWE has to try to beat this garbage program. But I will say this promo was better than anything I have seen in the past, few months from WWE. I will say, really, this is the best stuff I've seen since Seth Rollins and Edge. As far as it being hard hitting, gripping stuff, MJF really did come close at times to really holding my interest. But when it started going back to Punk, I'm yeah, Punk has always had the silver tongue, but the material here that he was coming up with, it's he was backed into a corner here, and you could see he was really having trouble. He talks about low hanging fruits, no. All that stuff was pretty true, that what MJF said. And you just really don't have enough to fight back against MJF, because really your AEW career so far has been trash. It's been garbage. It has not been good. So, with that in mind, you really have to admit, it was a good promo. I'm not a big AEW fan, as you know, but they both did a good job, and it was a pretty good promo, I will say. So let me know in the comments down below, do you think that this promo lived up to the hype? I guess in a way it sort of did. It's not the best promo since the 90s, like people are saying. Are you really telling me that was the best promo? That's better than anything in the Ruthless Aggression era? I mean, no. And there's been other promos, even during the WWE's PG era, which also MJF referred to Punk a few times as PG Punk. I will get that in here as well. The PG stuff, I mean, that's kind of run its course in a way. PG. You can keep on saying that till the cows come home. If that was in a promo 10 years ago, I'd be marking out a little bit, but not so much anymore. But you get it, So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.